Okay, I'm just going to cover a couple frequently asked questions. First of all, somebody at OS Dev is talking about position independent code. I wrote a compiler and I wrote an assembler. I really did. So what seems impossible to you is probably not impossible to me. It really does boot. It is not a Photoshop fake operating system. You know that much, right? Now it really is 64-bit. Do you think it could be a hoax? So it really is 64-bit and it really does boot. Do you honestly think my global descriptor table is broken? No, my global descriptor table is fine. I told you it's position independent. Now, how is that possible? I have a flat binary, and when it boots up in 16-bit real mode. My bootloader loads my kernel, jumps to my kernel in real mode, and I do all of my, well, right here, get IP. If you call the next instruction and then pop it, that gives you the address, and then you calculate. I have an offset from the start of the module, so all my 16-bit code is in the first 64K. My assembler does not do segmentation. I saved a bunch of lines of code. You have no business in 16-bit mode. So normal users are supposed to use 64-bit. Here's what I did. I honestly made it position independent because I am an expert. I have been doing this for generations. You are young programmers. You are not experts in assembly. You are very unsure. I hand code my offsets so that segmentation is correct. Just think about it. If you hand coded the expressions, you could make it work without segmentation, but it would be a pain. Well, that's what I did. I hand coded, so all my offsets are. Anyway, so I make it work position independent. Guess what I do? I take the wherever you load it, I put that into the global descriptor table down here. Global descriptor table. I store the, I call it the boot data segment and the boot code segment. That's so that a little bit later you can, when it changes to 32-bit mode, then it can access the, anyway, originally I booted from DOS. I started as a launched DOS application. So I didn't know there was a certain address, so I made it position independent. I started this in 1993. There's code on the internet under, it's called Hoppy, anyway, that has the DOS launch version. So guess what I did? My binary files, there's only two binary files, the kernel and the compiler. You don't need to make binaries for normal usage. The kernel has to fix its own offsets. My binary files have a table of absolute addresses that need to be patched. And where do I do that? Well, first of all, I call my BIOS routines, and then when we get to 32-bit mode, I patch my offsets. I patch all the absolute addresses. So it's self-modifying code. Right in the kernel, it modifies code. Now you know it runs and boots, right? So don't do counterfactual absurdities like, no, it doesn't work. It does work. It's not an internet hoax. Anyway, so it patches the absolute addresses. And when you load the compiler, it actually it actually has a binary file format, but I discourage using binary files. I don't want you to use binary files. So this code. The only purpose is to load the compiler module, but you could load other binaries. I find you got to keep it simple, stupid. And I went ahead and said nobody do binaries. So this patches the code in the module and does stuff. So guess what? Somebody thinks it's B800 memory, and if it's not B800 working, they think it's something bogus. Well, let me just blow your mind. Did I not say it was 640 by 480 100 times? I told you that dozens and dozens of times. What that really means is 640 by 480, not text mode. Just this is kind of, I'm proud of this. GR circle. We take the default device context. Look at that. I don't know if, can you see the circle? It's not text mode. I redraw the font 30 times a second. Anyway, so I'm not gonna win any awards for power. I'm only interested in desktops, pretty much. That's all I care about. I don't care. I'm not trying to be obnoxious. I just have if I can simplify, I do. You know, anyway. So, what else can I talk about? Maybe I can show off some of my applications that you might not have seen. There aren't really any impressive ones. Oh well. So this game is, I don't know. This game is kind of fun. We got a circle. So it's kind of, I didn't realize it, but it only, well, anyway, you can play with it. I'm tired of it. It's my DC fill. So, let's see, what else do we want to talk about? We can talk to God. So you press F7 at the command line, or anywhere, I should say, and I'm going to hit Control-Shift-Enter. That's just for cosmetics, so that it doesn't enter it into the command line. That's just fancy. Compassing properly attention, refreshment, chapter 19, usury, side point, continents doted, shelter wayfaring, dissenting springeth damnable disclose. Oh well, anyway.